Hello girls, I hope you're staying safe at home. To continue with the diseases chapter, today we are going to talk about diseases caused by protozoa. Okay, now you know protozoa is a single-celled organism. Now malaria is a disease which is caused by a protozoan which is called Plasmodium. Okay, and it is spread to humans by the bite of an infected female Anopheles mosquito. So this is the carrier of Plasmodium. Okay, and what does Plasmodium cause? It causes malaria. Now, when an uninfected female mosquito goes and bites an infected person, that is a person who is suffering from malaria, the parasite is also sucked in along with the person's blood. That is when the mosquito is drinking the blood of the infected person, the person who is suffering from malaria, it also takes in the parasite, which is Plasmodium, along with the blood. So when the Plasmodium goes inside the mosquito's body, the parasite grows and multiplies inside the gut, means the intestines of the mosquito. Now the mosquito is infected and is known as the malaria vector, means the carrier of malaria. So when this vector mosquito bites a healthy person, it transmits the infective stage of the parasite along with its saliva into the bloodstream of the person. Then the parasite will enter the body of the healthy person and it will grow and multiply in the liver of cells and goes on to infect and destroy the red blood cells of the person, because Plasmodium goes and attacks the red blood cells. Okay, so the incubation period is 3 weeks. That is, if the Plasmodium is injected into the blood of a healthy person by a mosquito, it will remain in the body for 3 weeks before the infection or before the symptoms of malaria is seen in that person. So the incubation period is 3 weeks. So what are the symptoms? Chill and high fever are repeated on the 3rd or 4th day. So there is high fever, feeling cold every 3rd or 4th day. There are various medicines, drugs like quinine, paludrin, camoquin, which are used as the treatment. Okay, and you know this disease is found in hot and humid countries like India. Now control measures, you know, we need to destroy the carrier, that is the mosquito. So we have to destroy the mosquito at all stages, and to avoid getting a mosquito bite, we have to use mosquito nets or mosquito repellents. Now next is amoebic dysentery, also known as amoebiasis. Okay, it is caused by, the causative agent is an amoeba. Again, it is a unicellular organism which is known as Entamoeba histolytica. What does it do? It destroys the lining of the large intestines. It goes inside through the food and then it goes and attaches itself to the large intestine and it destroys the lining. It starts eating up. So there is diarrhea with griping pain, and there is discharge of mucus and sometimes even blood in the stools. Okay, and how is it caused? It is caused by the contamination of food, especially by flies. An incubation period is about 1 week. And of course, to prevent it, there must be proper sanitation, cleanliness of the surroundings, and protecting the food from dust and flies. And this prevents the spread of the disease. Now next is sleeping sickness. Okay, it is a disease caused by, again, a flagellated protozoan which is known as Trypanosoma brucei, Gambaceae, and Trypanosoma brucei rhodesiense. Okay, and it gets transmitted by the bite of the tsetse fly. Okay, these are very tiny flies. What are the symptoms? Fever, headache, itchiness, and joint pains. In the first phase, the patient later on, okay, when it becomes more and more dangerous, this disease, they suffer from confusion, poor coordination, numbness, and trouble in sleeping. That is why it is known as sleeping sickness, because the person will not get sleep. This phase is known as the neurological phase. Okay, why neurological phase? Because it is creating confusion in the person, numbness in the person, that is, it is going and attacking the nervous system. Okay, and at this stage it can be fatal, that is, the person will die. Okay, and what is the treatment? Drugs or medicines like melarsoprol. Next, we come to diseases caused by parasitic worms. If there are worms in your stomach, in your intestines, okay, there are various diseases caused. The first one is known as Ascariasis. Okay, it is a disease caused by the common roundworm. Roundworm, you know, it is an elongated cylindrical worm. You can see here, cylindrical, it is elongated, long. Okay, and the females are slightly longer than the male. Then how can we differentiate between the male and the female worm? The male can be recognized by a slightly curved hind end. So here you can see, okay, the tail end is slightly curved. Okay, sorry, not here, here, the tail end here, it is slightly curved. This is the female and this is the male. So in male, the tail end is slightly curved. Okay, now these worms are found in the intestines, okay, and here they live in the intestines, they do not do anything, and they will live on the food that you eat and digest. So they will absorb the digested food from the host, and then the female lays thousands of eggs every day, and this pass out with the patient's feces, the stool. Okay, the eggs get scattered in the soil, it reaches vegetables in the fields. Okay, and children who are playing outside in the ground may get the microscopic eggs, that is, the eggs are so small you cannot see with your naked eyes. So they get these eggs on their hands, and infection occurs when children eat with unwashed hands or through unwashed raw vegetables. Next is Taniasis. Okay, it is a disease which is caused by tapeworms called Taenia solium. There are two types of tapeworms. One is spread by eating infected pork, that is, if the pork has this worm, and the other is by infected beef. The tapeworm remains in the intestine where it can be as long as 1 meter in length or so. It absorbs, again, since it is living in the intestines, what will it eat? It will absorb the host digested food, whatever food is digested in the stomach, it will eat that, and the patient becomes terribly weak. Why? Because the patient is not getting the nutrients. The worm is taking all the nutrients from the body of the host, so the patient becomes weak. The mature worm breaks off a small segment from its tail end which passes out with the feces. Okay, this segment contains eggs. When the eggs again are accidentally ingested by a pig or a cow, they hatch and form larval stages. Okay, tiny baby tapeworms, you can say, which settles on the muscles of the new host, that is either the pig or the cow. So when man, which is the final host, because these tapeworms live in the intestines of man, so if man eats raw or improperly cooked pork or beef, the worm matures in his intestine. So if the beef or the pork is cooked properly, the larval stages will die. Now next we come to Filariasis. Now it is a tropical disease which is also known as elephantitis. It is caused by a filarial worm, Wucheria bancrofti. Okay, and it is transmitted through the bite of the Culex mosquito. These small worms, they lie in the lymphatic system and the connective tissues of the human body, especially in the limbs. Limbs means the leg. Now when we talk about the lymphatic system, we are talking about the liquid part of blood which oozes out from the blood vessels, surrounds the cells, and then there are separate vessels through which this lymph flows and finally goes back into the blood vessels. Okay, so we find these worms living in the lymphatic system. And what is the, the symptoms? It is the legs become swollen, resembling those of the elephant. That is, it becomes swollen so badly to look as big as an elephant's. So that is why it is known as elephantitis. Okay. So this swelling is due to the blockage of the lymph circulation. That is the liquid part of blood which flows in the lymphatic system. So that is blocked by the worms, resulting in the inflammation of the lymph glands and lymph vessels. And so the entire leg becomes swollen up and it looks as big as elephant's limbs. So its symptoms are enlargement of limbs, ankle, and fever with chills in acute cases. With chills means person trembles. Okay, now what is the treatment? Eradication of the vector. The Culex mosquito is the vector, and using antibiotics and anti-inflammatory analgesics. Next, we move on to viral diseases. Okay, so right now we are going through a pandemic which is caused by virus. Okay, so what are viruses? Now, viruses are very small substances made up of nucleic acid, RNA, ribonucleic acid, and proteins. Full form of RNA is ribonucleic acid. Please keep that in mind. And they are so small that we do not see them under a compound microscope, but we can see them only through an electron microscope. They do not live freely in nature. They can live only inside other cells. Okay, so what they do is they go inside the cells of living bodies and they take over the metabolism of their host cell in their own favor, and they will produce more viruses and they kills the host cells. The viruses can be cultured on living tissue in the laboratory and can be crystallized and stored on the shelf. That is, viruses comes under either it is living or non-living. No one knows yet. Okay. Now these viruses are highly specific. They attack only one kind of host and only certain tissues. For example, the virus of myxomatosis, which is fatal to rabbits. That is, rabbits will die if they get this virus. It has no effect on man. And in the same way, rabbits do not catch the common cold and flu that humans catch. But of course, there are certain exceptions. The rabies virus, which is actually affects the dog, okay, can even cause the disease in humans, frequently leading to death. Okay. Now, virus is like a gene. It does not have any cell of its own. It dictates or it tells the host cells to produce more of its own kind of virus particles only. The host cells ultimately dies and the liberated virus particles attack new host cells. So once it enters the cells of a healthy person, what happens? Continuously new viruses are produced. Now, viruses are considered as a connecting link between living beings and non-living beings. Now, features which supports them as living beings: they can multiply inside a host cell, which can be considered as reproduction. But they cannot respire, they have no metabolism, no life processes, they do not grow, they do not multiply by themselves outside a host cell. That is, outside the cell, it is non-living, does not exist. Next is they can command, they can tell the host cells what to do, and they behave like living beings inside the host, whether it is plants, animals, human beings. Okay, they can be crystallized, they can be turned into crystals and made inactive for indefinite length of time. You can store it for hundreds of years, and then again when you put it inside the host cells, again it will become alive. So we do not know whether viruses are living or non-living. Your first assignment for today is to write down this table. Okay, and we discussed about the worms. You will write down the name of the worms, the disease it causes, its symptoms, and even the treatment. Okay, and I will be talking about the common viral diseases, and you'll be writing the same thing for the viral diseases. Okay, you will write down the causative agent, that is the virus, the symptoms, and treatments. Okay, so the common viral diseases are polio, common cold, influenza, smallpox, mumps, and rabies. So your syllabus has only AIDS, chickenpox, and hepatitis. Now, HIV or AIDS, the full form of AIDS is human immunodeficiency virus. Okay, sorry, the full form of HIV is human immunodeficiency virus. It causes a disease which is known as AIDS, which is known as, the full form is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. So AIDS was first found in the US in 1981. Since then, lots of cases have been reported every year from all over the world. In India alone, more than 2 lakh confirmed cases of AIDS patients, okay? And this disease is spreading it at an alarming rate, and it has no cure and no vaccine as well. And this disease is fatal, that is, person will die. And people in the age group 20 to 39 are more susceptible to getting AIDS, that is, they will easily get AIDS. And remember, AIDS is the last stage of HIV infection. Now, the causative agents of AIDS is a virus named HIV, human immunodeficiency virus. It has been detected in the body fluids like blood. You find it in the blood, in the semen, saliva, tears, and urine. It goes and attacks the immune system. Now, you know, immune system means the system in our body which fights against any viruses or bacteria or germs that enter our body and keeps us healthy. Okay, and it helps us overcome any disease. So it goes and attacks the immune system, and the patient suffers seriously from even minor infections of other diseases. That is, a person will not be able to fight even common cold or any bacterial disease otherwise which is curable. And even cancer appear when the immune system fails. Now, the incubation period, very important, is the time between receiving the infection and the appearance of symptoms. It may be more than 10 to 12 years. Children, in the assignment, write down the incubation period as well. Okay. Now, during this period, the infected person show positive results for HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, and they are known as HIV positive. Now, most people, when AIDS is fully developed, they die within 3 years, not from AIDS but from other infections or cancers. So, symptoms during this period may include swollen lymph nodes, fever, night sweats, and weight loss. So this is the symptom. Now, how is AIDS transmitted? The AIDS virus, HIV, is highly infective. That is, it will pass from person to person. Okay, so it may be transmitted by any of these following methods. First is sexual intercourse between a man and a woman when any one of the two is infected. So you will find the virus in the fluids of the reproductive passages, and prostitution is the biggest source of the spread of the infection. That is, when a man has multiple partners for sexual intercourse, then, and if the woman is HIV positive, then it will pass on to the male as well. Okay, so safest is a single partnership, wife and husband relationship. And another is homosexual intercourse. Homosexual means within the same sex, especially anal sex in males with an infected person. So this disease is more common in homosexual males, not in lesbians, not in females. Now, next is contaminated blood transfusion. So remember, children, AIDS, or a person becomes HIV positive not only through sexual intercourse but also through contaminated blood transfusions. Now, there may be certain situation where there is excessive bleeding resulting from injury or during surgery, and the patient has to be given blood from outside source. And there are some children who are born with a disease which is known as thalassemia, with defective hemoglobin of the blood. That is, the red blood cells contains hemoglobin, so the hemoglobin is defective. So this type of children must be given regular blood transfusion. That is, the blood must be given to them regularly, every 3 to 4 weeks, every month. And very, often the blood which is given from professional donors, there are people who donate blood. So if there is an HIV positive person who has donated the blood, then these children run the risk of getting AIDS. Okay. Now, according to a news published in the Times of India, that was on August 5th, 1995, in one of the hospitals of Bombay, 45 of the 64 thalassemia children, that is in the age group 2 to 15 years, were found to be HIV positive. So, how did they receive the virus? It must have been through blood transfusion. Okay. Next is mother to child transmission. Now, the germ from the infected mother may cross through the placenta and reach the embryo in the womb. That is when the child is inside the mother's womb, and if the mother has AIDS, she will pass on the HIV virus to the child inside the womb. Next is injection needles. If shared by more than one person, and if it has been introduced into a person who has the virus of AIDS, then the disease will be passed on from one person to the other person. So this disease is quite common in drug abusers, drug addicts. For the same reason, doctors in hospitals now use only disposable syringes, which are used just once a day. Remember, children, World AIDS Day is celebrated on 1st December to make the people aware of this disease. So next we have chickenpox. The disease is caused by a herpes virus called varicella zoster. It is a common contagious disease, that is, it will be passed from person to person, and this is found mainly in children, but sometimes even in adults. So this disease spreads very quickly by close contact with an infected person, just like the coronavirus, which is very infectious. Chickenpox also is the same, but of course it does not turn into a pandemic like the COVID-19. Now, its symptoms are highly irritating rashes which appear on the body, starting near the chest and back, and gradually it spreads to arms, legs, face, and hands. So there are rashes all over the body. First, the rashes appear as pink spots, tiny pink spots, and then it changes into a watery blister. Then the blister will slowly dry up, it shrivels up and dries and forms scabs. So this time is the infectious period. The scabs that is inside will contain lots of virus. So what is the treatment? The treatment is bed rest, because virus do not have any specific antibiotics. Antibiotics are meant only for bacterial diseases. So treatment is bed rest, keeping the rashes clean and dry. The blister should not be pricked, water should not come out from it, and calamine lotion can be applied to reduce the itching because it itches a lot. Okay, use of neem leaves also helps, and of course vaccination of live attenuated vaccine containing varicella is given to children at the age of 12 to 18 months for active immunization. So this virus is already introduced into the body of children when they are 12 to 18 months, so that the body becomes ready for infection if in case the child gets infected. So the body will be able to fight against this virus. Now next we come to hepatitis. Is caused by 5 strains of virus, namely hepatitis A, B, C, D, and E. Okay, so this virus causes inflammation of the liver. That is, the liver becomes swollen up, and it is caused by contaminated food, water, okay, and contaminated syringes again. That is the needles, and even in blood transfusions. Hepatitis A virus, it has an incubation period of 14 to 45 days, and it is most common in children and young adults, and it is transmitted by contaminated food and water. Hepatitis B has an incubation period of 6 to 26 weeks. Individuals of any age can be affected, so it can affect anyone. It is mainly transmitted again through contaminated syringes, transfusion equipment. It can produce cirrhosis and possibly cancer of the liver. That is, the liver will be destroyed very slowly. Hepatitis C and D viruses are similar to B virus in how it is transmitted from person to person, and it affects again the liver. Symptoms of hepatitis C and D are high temperature, fever, headache, joint pains, loss of appetite, that you do not feel like eating, and there is a general feeling of illness, nausea, you feel giddy and vomiting. After 3 to 10 days, jaundice may develop with deep yellow urine and light colored stools. So what is the treatment again? Viral disease, most important is bed rest until the fever comes down, it settles down, and then good food, high calorie diets must be eaten, okay, with limited or no protein and fat. That is very plain food must be taken. And wash hands after you handle the patient's bedpan and clothes. Okay, so with this we come to the end of the diseases chapter. I've already given you the assignment, so we'll have a test very soon. Till then, children, stay safe. God bless you.